Alright, welcome to another episode of Kelly's Corner. Today I'll be talking about my experience with art school. I don't have anything written down or anything, so it's just going to be off the cuff. I also don't remember it very well. It was back in 2012-ish, so yes. I've got my Yasutomo Sumi ink. This is the SMLT paper that I showed in the Kelly's Corner intro video. I'm just gonna list the friggin' materials below, as someone very smartly commented that I should do. This brush is the number 3 Rosemary & Co. Anyway, yeah, and the top broke off due to my rough handling. This piece is kind of like a witchy priestess lady, and she's like conjuring some kind of spell. And I don't know if you can see, but she's got like claws when she's like doing the spell. And I'm gonna do like black coloring and like veins like coming out, like almost she's like conjuring this power and it's like damaging her body. I thought that was cool. Yeah, so back in 2012-ish or 2011-ish, I applied to art school. I applied to Ontario College of Art and Design. The only reason I decided to go to that school was because 2 of my online friends lived in Toronto. That's the only reason. Oh, disclaimer, first of all, I was a really crappy student. This is not going to be any kind of like inspirational story whatsoever. I was a shit. I was the worst student ever. I did not care. Yeah, so I'm just putting that out there. So please don't use this as a reflection of like the school. So yeah, I was feeling really aimless, and I didn't know what to do with my life. I was just like working retail jobs, and then I wanted to do something in life. So I was like, well, obviously I should go to art school because I really like art, so let's try that. So I applied to OCAD in Toronto, again because 2 of my friends lived there. And another one of my friends went there, I should clarify. Shout out to Ashley Mackenzie, who's a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous artist. Check out her work. Yeah, so I applied, and then they called me in for like some kind of judgment assessment. I don't know what you'd call it, but I went to stay with my friend for a couple of weeks, and I went in and brought in some of my artwork, and I went in a room with like all these young students, and this couple of crusty old white professors had a look at my work, and like everybody like spread out their sketchbooks and their work like on a table, and they checked out my work, and then they asked like these like random ass questions, and it was like, what's your biggest fear? It's like something like that like and I kind of panicked, and I gave like a really bullshit answer, and I was like not reaching my potential or something. Anyway, it was a bullshit answer, and they seemed to like my artwork, and so I remember like I like packed up my art, and they're like, okay, thank you, like we'll be in touch. And I remember like I went into the OCAD like elevator, and I just like started bawling because I thought I totally blew it. That's like the memory that I have. Yeah, I thought I blew it with my like crappy answers like to their questions. And I was just bawling, and then I was like, oh my god. Anyway, so I went back to Newfoundland, my home province, and but I did get in, so I moved to Newfoundland. I moved into a share house with, or I moved to Toronto, sorry, I'm freaking, moved to Toronto, lived on Baldwin Street, shout out to Torontonians who know that place. I moved into a share house with a bunch of girls, and this was like the first time I'd ever lived on my own. At like ever. So I was like with a bunch of girls, which was fun, and like I had this tiny room. It was like, I don't know, it was like a cubicle. It was a tiny room, but like I was really happy with it. Yeah, so actual art school, oh my gosh, so I didn't even want to get a degree or anything. Like I remember wanting to like learn like stuff that I didn't know. But I also like was the worst student ever, and like if I wasn't good at painting, I was just like, oh, this is the worst, and I would just like not even try. I did learn some good tidbits, but like the classes I actually tried hard at like the classes that I did, like concepts class. Oh, sorry, my major was illustration. I don't know. Yeah, I should say that. Concepts, so like just basically like how different artists interpret different things. So they'd give us like, I don't know, we'd get like assigned one of the 7 deadly sins, and it's like how do you interpret that into a visual image and stuff like that, and like pick your favorite book and like design your own cover for it and then explain it, like stuff like that. Oh my god, I just spat everywhere. Yeah, and then so I did like okay the first, I think I did okay like the first year, like, is it a semester? I don't know, like the first bunch of months I did like okay. I did like pretty average / pretty well. And I was a mature student, so I was like in with a bunch of babbies. But there was a couple of other mature students there. Like I wasn't the oldest one there, but it was like me and a couple of mature students and a bunch of like 18-year-olds. And then like the second like chunk, like we had new classes, and the books were so stupidly expensive and we like barely used them, so I was like really salty about that. And then I got into this class, and it was called The Essay and the Argument Rhetoric. And it was a cool class. But it was like a reading and writing class where you had to like read a short story or like an essay every, like, for homework. And it was the type of thing where like I didn't have the textbook yet, and I was like, oh, I'll read it, like I'll catch up. But then like the friggin' weeks went on and I was not catching up, and I was like, oh, this is stupid, I hate this class, oh my gosh, like what does this have to do with art? And I just like couldn't bring myself to like do any of the work. I didn't pass in a single assignment for that class. And one of the things was like, what was it? It was like, you can do crappy at the class, but like as long as you pass the final exam, you can still pass, or something like that. But like I kind of like bullshitted myself and like had hope that I would still pass, even though, yeah, I was a rubbish student. I was a babby, no discipline. And my friends were like, Kelly, like, do your homework, like, you're gonna fail. And I was like, it'll be fine. And I didn't get it into my head that, like, you actually need to pass your classes to, like, move on. But, like, I was doing well in my other, like, my concepts classes and stuff. And then, long story short, I like failed the essay and the argument. I failed the writing class, and then I realized that like I failed. Like I couldn't move on, and I was like, all right, let's go, like year 2. And they were like, no, you failed your class. So my options were like to redo the first year again, or I don't know, and that was it. And I just fucking never went back to school. I didn't actually like, basically I feel like you had to like apply, like tell them what you were gonna do, and I just like never got back to anyone. So I was very undisciplined. I had a very poor attitude. I was cocky, but also insecure. Yeah, and it was really sad because like, all my friends that I had made, very dear friends, were all like moving forward, and I was kind of, they were like talking about their new classes and stuff, and I felt so depressed and so left out, but I also had no one but myself to blame. But I say this to everybody, I am glad that I actually dropped out / failed, because now I only have a little bit of debt instead of a lot of debt. And again, like, no clients that I've ever had have been like asked for any credentials or any like you know, any certificate, any diploma. So it's, I don't know, it didn't make or break me whether I went to art school or not. Yeah, I think it is a great tool to learn stuff, but you have to actually like be dedicated and like do the work. And yeah, it is extremely stressful though. Like, a lot of people I knew, and like even some of my housemates, like took a freaking mental breakdown when like just from the stress and the workload. And yeah, maybe I'll do another video about my experience just moving to Toronto, because it was a massive change from like moving there from the East Coast, from Newfoundland. Maybe I'll do like a whole Kelly's Corner talking about Toronto, but it was bigger and busier, and yeah, I felt a bit backwards because everybody was like really hot and hipstery and skinny and like art schooly, and I felt like a bit of a hick, I guess. So yeah, this is Confessions of a Art School Dropout. I think Brian Lee O'Malley was an art school dropout as well. I think I heard that. And he made the Scott Pilgrim series, which is also about Toronto. Or it takes place in Toronto. I really sucked at painting. We had like a painting class, and I thought like, oh, I'm gonna nail this, and I was rubbish. And I was like really discouraged. I don't know what it is, like it's actually horrible, and I'm sure I would like improve way more at so many different mediums if I would just like stick with it. But like if I try something and I'm like really crappy at it, I just get so discouraged like straight away and just like give it up. Also, this is going back to not being disciplined again. we had to like pass in our art assignments, like our illustrations and stuff, but they had to be like matted in a nice way. Like they had to be like stuck to like boards or like in some kind of like a folded folder. Like it had to be presented in a nice way, like our assignments. And I just could not be arsed to do that. And I remember like I did one thing and I got like a B, and like my frustrated ass teacher like left a comment on it. He was like, this should be an A assignment, but you didn't put in any effort to mat it. And I was just like, oh, just take it, I don't care. Yeah, I was kind of a brat, and I was like, I'm just here to learn stuff. I don't care about the diploma. But yeah, I had a very poor attitude. Ugh, I need a sippy sip. Talking is thirsty work.